Hey guys, Paul here. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Regionals and YCS events are back, and this is very exciting because we've basically gone 2 whole years, actually a little bit more, without really having these big Yu-Gi-Oh! Events back. And for a lot of people, these are also their first time getting to play in a Yu-Gi-Oh! Regional qualifier or a YCS event. And so if it's your first time, I decided that I would give a little bit of advice for these players who might be getting into this for the first time, and maybe even if you're getting back into it and you've forgotten the experience, although that doesn't happen often. But yeah, basically these are a few tips to make the most out of your first regional Yu-Gi-Oh! Experience. Technically these could even apply to a local tournament, but you've probably been able to play in those a lot more often. This is for kind of the more big league style tournaments. So a little bit of history to make sure that you can trust my opinion on all this stuff and I'm not just bullshitting. I've played Yu-Gi-Oh! For a really long time. I've been playing in regionals since 2000, maybe 9, 8, 9, I don't know. And I've gotten a number of Yu-Gi-Oh! Invites and stuff from regionals. I've played in OTS tournaments, played in lots of YCS events. So clearly you can trust me. But I want to disclaim that I'm not a pro player. This isn't really going to be technical gameplay advice. This is kind of more mentality, preparation, and just getting the most out of the experience type of stuff. So yeah, all right. Where to start? So preparing for a regional is obviously a really important aspect of it. By the way, these aren't a numbered list type of thing. I'm literally kind of just going off the dome with my own experiences and anecdotes. Preparing for regional is important. If it's going to be a regional where you have to drive only 30 minutes or an hour, then this isn't super relevant. But if it's a regional where you're going to have to travel 3 or 4 or 5 hours to get there, plan the actual trip, please. If you need to travel really far for one and it requires staying in a hotel or something the night before, that can oftentimes be worthwhile. Particularly with YCS events, you're almost always going to be having to do that. Plan your trip. I say this, you might be thinking well, does that have to do with playing Yu-Gi-Oh? A lot, actually. If you're planning a trip with friends, then get the hotel and gas and all that transportation and stuff sorted out. Split the costs of it. That can make it a lot easier to go. And this all leads to the idea of getting well rested, getting sleep. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is kind of grueling. Rounds are 40 minutes, or these days 45 minutes, I think. And a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Regionals and YCS and stuff, they don't have lunch breaks. There's no break time really scheduled in. So you usually will start playing at 10 a.m. and you might be going until 5, 6. I mean, some regionals have gone as late as 9 or 10 at night, or YCS events and stuff, and so you want to be well rested. Do not spend the night before play testing until 4 a.m. because then you'll just be dead and it'll be hard to wake up and focus the next day. I've said this many years ago. Bring light snacks. I think water is a really good thing to have. I think having just some nutrition bar or whatever it is that just gives you a little bit of energy, maybe a little bit of fiber or protein will go a little further than a honey bun. But hey, take something. Because yeah, like I said, there's no lunch breaks, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Can be a lot more taxing to play than you might think. Locals is 3 or 4 rounds, but regionals can be 7 or 8 or even 9. Same with YCS events, or even more. So yeah, that's first things first. I think the next important thing to take into your first regional is go with the intention of learning, and there's a police siren chase or something going on outside. Ignore that. Go with the intention of learning more so than winning. So winning your first regional, I don't think people really do that. They don't just march right in and win. It's more about just taking it all in. There's gonna be a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Players here, which can be a good thing. I mean, it's a lot more experience, a lot more people to socialize with, people to meet, lots of trades. There's oftentimes vendors. There's just a lot of stuff to try out. And I think that it's most important for your first time at an event like this to just make the most of it. Talk to different players, learn different perspectives, buy and sell a bit from the vendors just to kind of get in on the experience, trade and all that stuff, and just enjoy it. Of course, be sure to look after your stuff. That's really important. A lot of cards get stolen. This is just an unfortunate truth of human nature. I don't know, people steal things. I've had cards stolen. Friends have had cards stolen. I've had people tell me about a lot of really just terrible horror stories, and we all know how expensive Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards can get, so you don't want your $1,000 deck getting stolen. Watch your stuff. Don't trust even, I hate to say this, don't even trust your friends to watch your stuff. Nobody cares. I think the best little thing I heard about this was at some regional that I went to where the head judge, whoever it was that was talking before the rounds began, said your friends don't value your stuff nearly as much as you do. So even if you're going to the bathroom, even if you're going to grab a snack or grab something from the vendors and you think like, oh, I'll just tell my friend to watch this, just carry it with you. It's better that way. I know a common practice people do is like carrying their backpack like just in front of them. Like you strap your backpack in front of you so that way people can't even like sneak up behind you and grab something. So yeah, that's like a good sort of practice to do, and yeah, just watch your things. Let's see, as for the event itself, make sure that you're prepared, have your deck, have your mat, have your dice, have your extra sleeves, though not in the same deck box that your actual main deck is in. You know, I always say for regionals and YCS events, actually pack light. There's no need to really bring any more decks other than the one that you actually plan on playing with. There's no need to bring like 3 or 4 trade binders. I feel that that can just be, it's like extra weight that you don't want to deal with, and it's also like kind of just more likelihood stuff gets stolen or something like that. So, you know, when I go to these events, if I do plan on trading, I typically will just have a small assorted trade binder, like those little 4-pocket ones that are sort of small. I like using those. And like I'll have like one deck box that, I don't have a great example of one here, but this is a deck box that I would not bring because this has like, you know, multiple compartments. I would bring one of like my small Ultimate Guard Sidewinders, for instance. It's just large enough to build one, or to bring one deck in, and that's all I'm going to need for the day. And I don't want to have like a huge backpack, maybe just a small bag or a sling or something like that. It can actually be a lot better. Okay, now into the actual playing of the event. Make sure that you are focused. Try not to, you know, I'm about to say like don't socialize with your opponent. That's not what I mean. I'm not saying like be rude and be like stoic and stone-faced, but focus on your games. Try to, you know, don't like reveal too much about your hand, things like that. Watch your opponent closely for cheating. Be friendly, but like, you know, not overly chatty, I guess. You know, there's always like rule infractions that can end up happening. Immerse yourself in like the judge system. They'll usually explain this in regionals and YCS events, like how to call for a judge. I think if you ever have an issue that comes up in Yu-Gi-Oh! And you don't know how like a ruling works, make sure that you always call the judge about that stuff. Don't just take your opponent's word for it. Read cards, you know, don't let your opponent rush you, but also don't slow play. There's like a middle ground that you'll often, the more events you play in, the more you'll find what that healthy pace of gameplay is. And as for like, you know, I see a lot of people like at regionals and stuff, like they'll just basically play until they go X3 or something, and then that's when they drop from the event. I think if it's your first Yu-Gi-Oh! Regional, it's good to play the whole thing through. If there's 8 rounds, play all 8 rounds, even if you do terribly, even if your final record is like 2-6 or whatever. It's still better to play in all the rounds, get the full experience, because playing at regionals or YCS events is a lot different than playing at locals. It's, you know, there's just a more focused kind of play-to-win environment that you may not get at locals. People aren't going to let every little thing through. I kind of like the rush of playing against people that I don't know. At locals, you kind of know who everyone is, things slide, you know what deck X person is playing, they kind of know what deck you're playing, you play every week. But like at a regional, kind of the fun is that you don't know what your opponent's going to be using, you don't know who your opponent is, you don't know how good or bad at the game they are, and that can be fun, and I think that like it's good to experience all of that. And plus, if you paid 20 bucks or whatever to get into these events, however much it costs now, I think they've raised the price a little bit, but you know, if you're playing in these regionals, like get the full experience. Even if, like I said, even if your record isn't good, it's still better to, you know, just get all those matches in, and then if your next regional, that's kind of when you can aim for improvement. The first one isn't about like winning everything, it's just about experiencing it all and then setting a bar for yourself of like, do I like this type of thing, and if I play again, how can I improve? And then finally, reflect on how the regional went afterwards. Obviously, it's a very tiring experience. Usually the day ends with people just ready to kind of like go to sleep, go home. And that's good, and you should get the rest, but also make sure to like kind of reflect on your matches. How did they go? Could you have played something better? What led to your defeats? Did you actually just get sacked by this impossible matchup? Or, you know, was it a mistake that you made? Think critically about your performance, and you know, talk with the group of people that you went with as well about how like their regional experience went. The metagame in these regionals can oftentimes be a lot different than your local metagame you might be used to. So it can just be a good overall experience. Okay, I think I've blabbered long enough. Hopefully this was helpful. I know that these tips are like kind of not ordered or really anything and not like all that coherent. Maybe someone can add timestamps in the comments if that's even worthwhile doing. I don't know. Okay, let me know what you guys think about your first regional experiences, if you've just recently had them or if you're excited about doing it. I'd love to hear how it goes. Other tips that people could maybe use are more than welcome. And that's pretty much going to be it. I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope that you all go and enjoy your first Yu-Gi-Oh! Regional or Y6 experience and have a good time and just learn from it and get more into doing it. All right, see you in the next one. Pass turn.